everyone. Thanks for joining. Just a little disclaimer, this is being recorded for Behind the STEAHM's use. And we're going to ask everyone to please keep yourself muted unless you have any questions, and then we'll pick you to speak. So without further ado, let's get started with introductions. My name is Tiara. I'm the secretary for Behind the STEAHM, and I'm here with my very talented sister, Eris. And she is a music therapist that we will be interviewing today. So yay.
Hello, everyone.
So let's just get started. First, please tell the people who you are and what you do.
Okay, so hello everyone, I'm Eris. I am a studying music therapist. I have completed my 6-month internship at UCLA Mattel Children's Hospital, and then a little later I'll tell you more about my journey into this career field. A little more about what I do. I love art, so I like to draw, I like to sing, I like to dance, and just express myself using virtually any art form. I love working with children. I have a lot of experience working in daycares. I have experience working with special needs children and children on the spectrum. And I also have experience working as a behavioral therapist / behavioral interventionist. I love to, what else do I do? Yeah, I love to learn. I am currently taking a sign language 3 so that I can become fluent in the very near future. I am also studying Mexican Spanish, and I am also learning how to do more graphic art. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I do.
Great. So can you elaborate a bit more about your experience? You're an interventionist therapist, and you also just finished an internship at UCLA. So can you just talk about the length of some of these things and a bit more about the process to become a music therapist?
Absolutely. So I'm just gonna get some of my notes together because I have a very long journey to talk about, but I just want to make sure I hit all the points. So I'll start with the undergraduate process. That's where I got experience working in daycares, and I got more information on how I wanted to work as I continued my studies as a music therapist. So the undergraduate experience for me was honestly so much fun. I learned so much about myself, about music therapy, and I was able to do so in an environment that literally felt like a superhero school for musicians. So before I jump into the undergraduate process, I'll talk a little bit about what it took to get there first. So initially, I was introduced to music therapy by my mom. For a long time in high school, I thought that I wanted to study neurology, and I thought that I wanted to become a doctor. And then I soon learned that that was not the career field that I was cut out for. I learned more about how I really did love to use art in my everyday life, and I learned more about how I wanted to just be around more people and make those intimate connections rather than just looking at a diagnosis. So, in the latter half of high school, my mom started to look into different career fields that spoke to those things that I was just telling you about. And up until before then, I really was comparing myself a lot to the students around me, the peers around me. The high school I went to is called California Academy of Math and Science, and that school is very competitive, and it really makes you look at those around you. And so that environment for me just made me feel like I didn't know what to do. So I was very grateful to have my mom to help me out, to understand there are career paths for you, and specifically ones that will nurture, welcome, and appreciate the things that I come with. So yeah, the undergraduate application process was as follows. And so basically you had to send in an audition tape. You had to send in different forms that showed, the work that you had done thus far, and you had to take different proficiencies. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go and do my audition in person. They had a little tour that Berklee was doing, and that's the school I went to, Berklee College of Music. Berklee was doing a national tour where they were taking different faculty members from Berklee and bringing them to different parts of the United States. And if you were living there, you got to audition. And so I am in LA, so I got to audition in Los Angeles. And yeah, the audition process consisted of an interview, an audition, and a proficiency showing where you were musically. And that looked like sight reading, conducting, and transcription / ear training. After I got in, once I got there, it was just a whirlwind of things that happened, moving from Los Angeles to Boston, which is where the Berklee campus is at, that I attended. And yeah, when I first started undergraduate, the first level was music application theory and just basic music skills. And depending on your principal instrument, you also had to study that. So I'm primarily a vocalist. So that was the route that I took in the beginning of my journey. And so I had to do proficiencies. I had to do rating auditions where they were rating how good you were or how good you weren't. And yeah, I learned a lot about just the vigorous practice that goes into music proficiency. After I got through those first level classes in the first semester, I was able to apply for the music therapy major in my second semester. And that consisted of another application process where I had to send paperwork, like, you know, a personal essay, resume, and then just a cover letter stating why I wanted to be in the music therapy major, why I felt like I would be an asset to the field. And then in addition to that, we had to have an interview with faculty and the chair of music therapy, and we had to audition on our primary instrument, guitar, and piano.
So how long would you say the whole music therapy process is from start to finish, and what's the most challenging aspect of being a music therapist?
So the entire process for me has been 5 years of undergraduate work, including my 6-month internship. And I guess I'd say that the most challenging part is just continuing to believe in yourself. This field is very, very, very new, and it's easy to think of why it might not work or feel like, you know, not many people understand even why you're doing it or if it's even something worth doing. So I think that was the hardest part, just finding solid ground to stand on and knowing that this is the work that I'm called to do.
So what is something that you think that you learned on the job that coursework couldn't quite prepare you for? And how would you, you know, explain something like this to someone that's also interested in a music therapy career and they want to start preparing as soon as possible?
Yeah. So something that I learned that was not in the coursework, not necessarily in the books, and cannot necessarily be taught in the classroom was the journey in accepting and learning yourself. This work puts a spotlight on all of your insecurities. One, because it's a mental health job, and also because it's a therapeutic job. So the things that you learn in the field and in different sessions with people can really point the flashlight back at you. And one of the things that I can speak to directly is countertransference. And if for those of you who don't know what countertransference is, that's just basically when you see yourself in someone else, so much so that you almost start to react to who you are and not who that person is. And I learned a little bit about, you know, just how challenging this work could be because of all the things that you might see depending on the population that you work with. But I did not know very much about how that would affect me and how that would show up in my life. Thankfully, I've learned a lot more about how I can channel that so that I can use that for my client/patient's good and my good as well. And for anyone who is aspiring to become a music therapist, I would say, before you jump right in, learn as much about yourself as you possibly can, and really take stock in why you want to do your work. Like find out what is your why so that you can continue to pull from that and continue to fill your cup in the way that is most fruitful for you so that you can continue to pour out.
And what continues like to inspire you with this field, knowing how challenging it is? Like what keeps pushing you to keep going back?
The main thing that pushes me to go back again and again is just the feeling of knowing that I'm doing God's work. And then in addition to that, I love helping people. I love knowing that who I am authentically can make a positive change. And this work continues to show me that again and again, from the children that I work with to the families that I work with to the hospital staff or other support staff that I've been able to work with in different populations. I'm continuously reminded that this work is so fulfilling and so fruitful, and not just for me because I like to help people, but also for the people that I work with so that they can see the differences in just music as medicine and less invasive methods of helping people or helping people get to healing. And that really brings me back all the time because we live in a world where, you know, we're very much used to instantaneous change, and we are pretty impatient. And I think that music therapy is an avenue for really giving yourself that patience and giving yourself that time to not only heal, but also connect with others. And that brings me back every time.
And what is your favorite project that you've done so far?
My favorite project that I've done so far? That's a good question.
I know mine. I don't know if it's gonna take you.
My favorite project? I'd like to hear yours, and then I guess I'll say mine.
So I think a really cool thing that Eris does with her patients is that she kind of makes things specific to them. So something cool that she has done, which I want you to take it away because I don't know the details and I don't want to say too much, but you made a song, and on the song you use the audio of your patient's heartbeat.
Oh, yes.
And I think that was really cool and really personalized. Like, I would want one myself. So you can like elaborate a bit more on like a project like that, or something innovative that you think that you've had the opportunity to bring to the field.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah,
It was pretty cool.
That I do. So the project that Tiara is speaking to is a project that I got to work on while I was working at UCLA Mattel Children's Hospital, and in that population we had a lot of end-of-life cases where the patients that we were working with, we either knew that they were going to pass soon or we didn't know, but we started to do memory making before that process started to happen. So one of the children that I worked with, he and his mother were going through a really tough time where we didn't know when the last day would be. But I had started to notice in session with them that music was definitely impactful and really helpful for helping them connect to each other. And so one of the ideas that I had was to do a memory making heartbeat recording, something that I learned from my supervisor. And basically we use a stethoscope that also records via a Bluetooth app on your phone, so that you could record their heartbeat and then add them to a song of their choosing. And so one day in session, I was just moved to sing Amazing Grace. And after singing it, I also had the translator online because this is a Spanish speaking family. And we translated the entire song based off of the words that the mother was saying to her son. And after we got all the words and wrote the lyrics down, I made a lyric sheet and put his favorite things around it. And I recorded it. And I recorded it through GarageBand and layered my voice. And then after I layered my voice, I got the heartbeat recording and I layered him in there as well. And before he was in the hospital, he was a drummer. And so I made sure to make that really apparent in the beginning of the song, like his heartbeat was the driving rhythm of the song. And it was a very, very wonderful way for me to help them connect and also give the mother that memory of her wonderful son. And the way that it was given to them, I made sure to email it to them. We burned it onto a CD so she could play it in her car. And it was just such a powerful song that every time I went back to that room, I made sure to sing it and sing it in Spanish. And it was an honor to even be able to be a part of that process, because it can be very, very hard. But I'm glad that music was able to bring some light and some joy into that somber moment.
So what do you think is something that's innovative that you bring to the field?
Something that's innovative. I think that who I am authentically is innovative because I really am an optimistic person. I love to see the bright side of things. I love to smile, and in an environment where there's a lot of sorrow, that can be really helpful. Also, my love for art, I think, is very innovative. I like to do things like create cartoons for my kids, or create comic strips, or do different things that really speak to who they are and where they're starting. And I think that that's something different and innovative. And like I said before, taking ASL and learning Spanish, I really do love to learn, and I will learn pretty much anything from my kids. So I think that that's a wonderfully innovative thing to bring to the field, because, when we get into our fields, we can go on one track, but my mind doesn't necessarily go down just one road. I like to pull different things that speak to who I am and also who I'm working with. And I think that that's a wonderful thing to bring to this.
Yeah, so to elaborate a bit more about bringing different kind of fields into your practice of music therapy, we're brainstorming an upcoming event for Behind the STEAHM, the intersection between science and arts. So can you just speak more on like how important you think that, you know, combining science and arts to your field and how beneficial that has been?
Yeah, so combining science and art for me has been extremely beneficial because I think that in a way, science is a form of art. There's a lot of variation, there's a lot of different ways to explore things, just like art. And the way that we process different scientific things can be enhanced using art. For example, when I was learning different things when I was younger, a lot of the ways that I remembered it was through mnemonic devices or through music. And I think that that can be really helpful, and it can open up a lot more doors and be so much more inclusive when we have that universal language of music to help guide us on that journey and learning more things. And science is such an impactful field, and we are all a part of it, from human science to earth science to all the types. So I think that bringing art into that field can just make it a lot more accessible for people who might not feel that it is accessible for them.
Yeah. Awesome. So this is, you know, 2020, and in March 2020, the pandemic really hit America. So how has the pandemic affected your career? What did it do to your internship status, and how did you manage to overcome that?
Yeah, so when I was in week 2 of my internship, we got the whole boot because COVID was rampant through these streets. And we actually had to go home and stop working on site at the hospital. And it was right after we had our 2-week training. So it was just like, what? So the way that it affected me, I was really, really nervous about how I would keep my client family relationships from afar, from home, and especially from behind a screen. So that process for me was like very transformative and very challenging. And so basically what I had to learn how to do was I had to learn how to use telehealth, which is similar to what we're doing now, you know, just getting behind a screen and talking and making sure that I'm making that connection with someone from afar and letting them know how I could support them. And so I had to learn how to basically sell myself by calling the hospital like, hey, I'm here to support, this is who I am, this is what I can do for you, sending emails, and then eventually getting to a point where telehealth calls became a lot more normal. And for my clients and patients, that actually proved to be very helpful, because with telehealth, it normalizes therapy in that you can do it anywhere, and it provides a lot of accessibility to people who have like large families that usually they can't bring to therapy. So now we can expose them to, okay, well, this is what we can all do together, and just finding different innovative ways to connect. I learned how to do more graphic art through this. I would ask them, you know, you want to draw with me? And they're like, yeah, but I can't see your paper. So I was like, well, let me get a tablet. Or if they were like, I want to watch this video. Okay, well, let me get the screen share. And just finding different ways to create that environment that they were used to having from behind a screen. Yeah, I picked up a lot of different tools. I ended up creating something I call my computer cart, which is just a virtual version of the cart that I usually bring around the hospital or bring to different sessions. When I was a behavioral therapist, I had a large suitcase full of things that I love to pull out, making sure that I had enough things to do with my kids. And so when I transferred to telehealth and doing things from afar, I just took those same ideas and made them virtual so that I could share them not only with my patients and families, but also with aspiring music therapists and other students that were studying to become music therapists.
How impactful do you think telehealth has been for you? Like, are your clients getting the same experience? Do you think they get it even, you know, better experience? You know, you utilizing the webcam feature, and how would you, if you would change it, change telehealth, or like, do you have anything else that you have planned that is, you know, feasible for your clients during this pandemic?
I think that telehealth is extremely helpful. I think that it proves that, you know, technology is our friend, and it can provide so many new open doors for us where there weren't before. For one of my clients, she was going to get different things done to a port that she had because she was receiving chemotherapy, and usually she can't take anything in there with her. She can't hold anything. She can't do anything but just sit there. So telehealth provided that resource to where she doesn't have to move because I'm moving for you. I'm the TV show that talks back. Now you don't have to just sit there and feel like you're alone. I think that that is a huge, huge piece of why technology in this format is very helpful. And then also, would I change anything about telehealth? Because of how impactful it has been for my clients, I do know that, you know, music engagement in person is a different experience because you feel the vibrations, you're sharing that space with someone. However, I don't think that virtual communication impedes the therapeutic relationship, and it also does not impede being able to enjoy a musical experience. Would I change anything? At this moment in time, I feel that there's a lot of new changes already happening in telehealth that I am excited to bring about in my own way. So yes, there are changes I would like to make. I don't know what those are yet, but I know that I would like to continue to contribute to how effective telehealth can be, just based off of how it's been for me and how it's been for my patients and families as well.
Awesome. And before the 30-minute mark hits and I open it up to our wonderful audience members, what's next for you? And where do you see yourself in the music therapy industry? Do you see yourself starting your own clinic? Do you see yourself, you know, going back to UCLA?
So what's next for me? I have started the process of going to take my board certification test. I practice every day, and I've already sent in the paperwork to the board certification board so that I could make sure that all of my ducks are in a row to sit for the test, sit for the exam, and pass it on the first try prayerfully. And after that, or while I'm doing that, I plan on starting grad school. I've started the application process for that as well, and prayerfully I will get in on a full ride. I would like to study at Arizona State University. So in the fall of 2021, I would like to go there in person if God is willing. And yes, I would love to own my own practice. That's one of the reasons why I would like to study at Arizona State. They have a music therapy clinic where that is the main thing that's happening there, which is so inspiring because I've never worked in a facility that was specifically for music therapy. So I would love to see how I can grow in that environment, what my clientele will look like, how I'll be able to handle myself in my coursework and my caseload, because I plan on being a student for a very long time because I do really love learning. So yeah, I would hope in the future to own my own practice, and not just a music therapy practice, but an art therapy's healing practice. Because of my love of art, I am really inspired to explore more ways to incorporate expressive arts therapies in the healing process, from music therapy to dance therapy to art therapy to even Reiki, which is something I'm also certified in, which is a healing practice just using your hands and channeling positive energy so that you could help someone heal. So yeah, I would love to do all of those things.
Great. All right, audience, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or unmute yourself if you don't know how to raise your hand. And in the meantime, because I can't stand the awkward silence when I'm waiting for that, if you'd like to give another example of one of your client stories that inspired you, or you feel like can inspire others that are interested in music therapy, please share.
Yeah, okay. So one of the client stories that I love to think about, just because it was so inspiring for me and it showed me how impactful music therapy, even in a non-musical sense, can be, is when I worked with this teenager who was in the hospital for a short amount of time. And he was very, very shy in the beginning. And I am not a shy person. I'm very outgoing and I can be very extroverted. So I was learning a lot more about how to meet people where they're at when they don't present like I do. And so when I was first working with him, he didn't really want to sing. He didn't really want to play any musical instruments. And he definitely did not want to just sit and watch me sing. So I was trying to figure out ways for us to connect. And one of the ways that we connected was through our love of art. Just in conversation, I was just asking him like, oh, do you know this cartoon? And he said that he did know it, and I knew it too because I also love cartoons. And I showed him one of my drawings. And after that, we started this entire process of creating a cartoon together. And he had this entire idea of all these different characters he wanted to implement, all these different storylines he wanted to come true, and how he wanted to honor his siblings and honor his family just through this cartoon. And he went from this shy kid who said maybe 3 words a session to somebody who ended up, and then in addition to that, I play guitar. That's my second primary instrument, and then third is piano. And then also in addition to that, I am a great percussionist. I have all the rhythm, y'all. So I like to use drums, I like to use xylophones, and just different musical instruments that provide that rhythmic and vibrational experience for my clients. Those are the ones I gravitate towards the most. And there's another instrument that I really liked at the hospital, and it's called the happy drum. And it's a drum that is in a key of your choosing. The key that we had at the hospital was C. And so you could play it and you're never out of key. Like no matter what you hit, you're always in the same key, and you're able to create all these different rhythms and melodies. And yeah, I like to use instruments like that.
Awesome. Thanks for that question. We have another one from Michelle.
Awesome.
What do you do for self-care?
Amazing question. Yes, self-care is a huge part of this field. The first thing I lean into for self-care is my faith. I love to pray and talk to God and just center myself by knowing that, you know, He is calling me to do this work, and He won't put anything on me that I can't bear. So in those sessions where I have to go in, and when I walk out, the child isn't there anymore, I pray about it. I like to express myself through music, even when I'm not doing music therapy. I love to sing gospel songs. I love to sing to Him. I love to draw and create different art so that I can see where I'm at and see how I'm feeling and what I'm really harboring on my spirit, or in my spirit and on my heart. And in addition to that, I lean into my family. I love to hang out with my family and talk to them and play video games with them or watch shows with them. Yeah, and I do all of those things. I kind of just cycle them around to keep my self-care up, and all of those things really support me in this journey. So thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, very good question. Very good question, Michelle. Ron W. has a question. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little on NMT, and what are your goals for this area, and how does your minor in music therapy help you?
Great question. So
I think he meant major.
No. I think he means minor.
What is it like?
You're my minor in music therapy. So I'll explain. Mm-hmm. So neurologic music therapy NMT stands for neurologic music therapy, and that is basically the application of music therapy for people who are dealing with neurologic disorders, or if you're studying or helping someone heal who is already experiencing mental disorders that can affect their neurological standing, like how they interact with people, how they express themselves, etc. So NMT for me, what I learned at the hospital, it's a lot of different ways that you can apply neurologic music therapy to sessions. So one of the things that I used NMT for was when I was working with a client who was learning how to regain their speech, or learning how to speak in general. And so neurologic music therapy is useful in that way when you're using rhythms. And so, for example, if someone can't say the word birthday because of all the different consonants in there, the way that I would use NMT is by taking them out and just using them in a song. So we would go and that is literally neurologic music therapy in a nutshell. It's just using rhythmic and sensory information and then putting it in music so that you can apply it in regular speech or in regular application of what you're trying to do in daily life. And the way that NMT works in the brain is that music is in all parts of the brain. However, speech is only on one side or in one area. And there are 2 areas that can be affected. There's a Wernicke's area and Broca's area. And usually you can have Wernicke's aphasia or Broca's aphasia, which means either you can't express speech or you cannot understand it. And NMT helps a lot because music is everywhere in there. So some part of your brain is going to get it. And that way, we can help people create new speech pathways or express themselves differently. And if the speech isn't coming out, you can even use different hand motions or just the rhythm of being able to pat or being able to walk to a certain beat. Then you can gain different skills by using neurologic music therapy in that way. And my minor in music therapy, so I minored in psychology, and the psychology minor very much helps feed this field because you need to have an understanding of the human condition and the way that the brain works before you can try and fix anything that's going on in there. So my psychology minor has really fueled my love of human condition and human nature, and understanding that, you know, we are all different and that's what makes us beautiful. And having that variation in how we react, how we express, it opens up so many doors on how to heal ourselves. In psychology, the psychology minor, I was opened up to so many different classes, like the psychology of music and music therapy and special education, and seeing how psychology is present in those fields because it really informs why music can work and why therapy can work for people. So yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you for that question.
So I see that DeMarcus has commented that, you know, he didn't realize that music therapy can work for speech problems. Do you say there's anything else that, you know, people may not think when they hear music therapy, it can help, you know, especially when you think of like the neurological
Yes.
Of how everything is connected.
Yeah.
So what's something else that you would say you kind of surprised you as you matriculated through your music therapy courses?
Yeah, so some speech therapy also surprised me, DeMarcus. I did not know that music could literally help people speak. I first learned of that when my mom introduced me to the field, and I think she was a senator, Gabby Giffords. She had unfortunately been shot in the head, and that part of her brain was affected to where she could not speak anymore. And music was the pathway for which she could find that speech again. And then in addition to that, a lot of my patients who were unable to move after they had been in the bed for so long, or they had lost a lot of muscle activity in their legs because they had been bedridden for so long, we use music to regain that muscle strength. So doing different physical therapy. I actually worked hand in hand with a lot of my physical therapists at the hospital, because it just made the patient feel a lot more comfortable hearing music, and then also they were able to entrain or get on beat with what was happening in the music so that they could do the movements that were corresponding. And so there are people who have literally learned to walk using music. And I've played the guitar and walked backwards while somebody was walking towards me, and that rhythm and that ability to jump onto another part of their brain versus thinking of, okay, I gotta walk, I gotta pick this up, I gotta do all of that falls away, because it's just I'm walking to the beat and I'm just moving towards you. And so music helps with motor movement, it helps with speech production and speech understanding. Was something else that it surprised me. Oh yeah, and it surprised me with its ability to really help people understand different things that were not understood before. So for example, I was working with a family who had a child in the NICU, and they did not know how to help the baby latch onto the nipple for when they were doing breastfeeding, and then also when they were trying to have them learn how to suck with their pacifier. And so I use music to help the baby get on rhythm with the pacifier and recognize with the song, like, oh, okay, when I hear this song, it's time to eat. Or okay, when I hear this song, it's time to suck. So just using music as a tool for understanding has also been so surprising, and watching how if you have a certain song for when you wake up or when you go to sleep, you can literally train your body to react to that musical piece so that you can continue to do what you're trying to do. So yeah, that also surprised me.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how you kind of like build routines off of music. So could you like just go into a bit more, because I hear it all the time, of like during your sessions, like you usually have songs to get you through, like how you develop those songs with each client, and what songs have you noticed are better off when you begin with versus end with, and how you kind of determine which to use?
Yeah, so I had a lot of practice in my undergraduate studies. So I was able to take 5 different practicum courses where I was able to go into 5 different populations and learn more about just the way that I could use music as a tool for helping people get things done. And in my first practicum, that's actually one of the ones that was the most impactful because I used so much from that one. And that first one was my early intervention practicum, where I was working with babies and adults, like their parents, on how to learn different basic things, like knowing when to go to your parent or knowing not to go to that stranger, or different things like that. So the way that I learned how those songs were effective is just by trial and error, really. One of the songs that I use a lot is my hello song and my goodbye song. And those let my kids know, like, okay, like something's happening. Either we're starting or we're ending based off of the rhythm or based off of the words that you're saying. So for instance, in the beginning of my sessions, I like to do a nice strumming pattern, like nice and fast, like, okay, we're getting ready to go, let's get hyped. And then as we progress, I do either an initial assessment or an ongoing assessment to see where they are. A song I like to do is my I Spy song. It's calm, but you can also speed it up. And that allows me to gauge kind of where they are. Like if they're reacting to the fast, okay, cool, let's keep it fast. But if they're kind of slowing down, now I know what to do for them next. And I can communicate through the music in that way. Yeah, and then also with different songs that provide that opportunity for them to self-express, those help me out a lot as well, because really in my sessions all I'm trying to do is figure out where that person is and how they want to be supported, even if they can't necessarily articulate that themselves. And I've gotten a large arsenal of music in my mind now so that I can use common songs like Baby Shark or Twist and Shout to see where my kids are and what they want to focus on. Yeah, and thankfully I'm blessed with the ability to kind of just make stuff up on the spot. So I'm able to switch the lyrics around. So if they're doing something that's off topic, I can validate that and say, oh, I see that you're looking over there, but what's happening on the screen? And just bringing it back in a way that is musical and inviting, and also letting them be who they are, but also letting them know, like, okay, but we have a job to do. The music kind of changes around that. So it varies, but yeah, I decided how I would get that session format based off of my initial assessments with the client, which continuously changes, and then also just with the large arsenal of music that I have from my practice and from my exposure to music from when I was a child.
Great. So I don't see any more questions. So are there any last comments that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for wanting to learn more about music therapy. It's always such an honor to talk about it and let people know how wonderfully effective it is and how much it means to me, and how I think that it really is such a beneficial tool to have in our arsenal of how to heal ourselves. And for anyone who is aspiring to be a music therapist or learn even more, I'm open to answering any more questions even off of the interview. And just know that this is a field that, even though it's new, it is very, very, very needed, and it is very effective, and it does make a lot of change.
I did want to ask you this, and only if you're comfortable, if you wanted to sing, since this will be going on our website, just to give a little taste of, you know, kind of what you do, and then we can kind of link more of your videos if people like what they hear.
Sure. Can I get my guitar?
Yes.
Okay, let's turn off the camera.
Right.
So I'm going to do one of my favorites that I like to do at the hospital, and something that inspired me to learn more Spanish. This song is called Como la Flor. Como la flor, tanto amor me diste tú, se marchitó, me marcho hoy, yo sé perder, pero ay, 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 cómo me duele, pero ay, 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 cómo me duele. Sé, tienes un nuevo amor, sin embargo te deseo lo mejor. Si no encontraste como la flor, tanto amor, me diste tú, se marchitó, me marchó hoy, yo sé perder, pero ay, 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 cómo me duele, pero ay, 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 cómo me duele, pero ay, 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 cómo me duele.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. And this is a part of the Day in the Life series. So this is a monthly series. This is the second one that we've had so far. The first one you guys can catch on our website very soon. That was with the marine scientist. And this one will also be on the website. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys go check out our website at behindthesteam.com and our IG and Twitter handles also at Behind the STEAHM. And thank you guys very much. Have a beautiful and blessed evening.
Thank you, Tiara and DeMarcus, for having me.